Hi, my name is Ryan, and I am a math tutor at the Digital Learning and Academic Support Center here at Baton Rouge Community College. In today's video, we're going to learn about the algebra for finding the inverse of a function. So today is on finding the equation of an inverse, the algebra calculation. And first, we're going to sort of review a little bit that a reverse is kind of like your return trip that you're taking from where you started. So you see in the first drawing, if we start with x and we add 2, if we take away 2, we're back to x. So from x to y, y to x. The same thing, if we started at y and we took away 2 and then we add 2, we're back to y. So on the right side, I have it where you have an x and you do times 3 to get whatever y it is. And then if you divide that by 3, you're back to x. The other way, if you start with y and you divide by 3, you got to multiply by 3 to get back to your original number. So those are inverses to each other. So here, we're going to ask ourselves the question, well, what if I had a function that was 3x plus 7? And what are the steps to getting an inverse for such a function? So we're going to do those steps. We're going to do this function as an example, and then we're going to show that, like anything else in math, you can start mixing in other functions that you know to find the inverses of those functions. So here, f of x is 3x plus 7. And here are the 3 steps, right? Here are the 3 steps. Step number 1, this is really important, so we're going to go a little slowly. You set your f of x or h of x or g of x or whatever it is as a y equals, right? F of x equals. Because your f, g, y is your y on the graph, okay? You switch the position of x and y for the inverse, and then you solve for your new y. So let's look at this example. F of x equals 3x plus 7. And you see I already did the first step to get us started, right? Y is equal to 3x plus 7. What did I do? I replaced the f of x with a y. And I'm going to go ahead and do this just to maintain the same y that I had. So the other one was cursive, right? So now you see that I drew the arrows for the second step. We're switching the position of x and y for what? For the inverse. And the way you write the inverse is f minus 1, right? You have to say what you did because you can't say that those 2 equations are equal to each other once you switch the x and y. So that's for the inverse. And now we're going to work this for y equals. So this might seem a little weird at first because you're used to trying to find an x equals, and we have an x equals here, but we want a y equals to get our new function. So the first thing that's in the way here is that plus 7. We're trying to get y by itself. So we end up with the x minus 7 is equal to 3y, because we just said that's 0. And then to get rid of that 3, we divide by 3 each side. And there we have it. We have y is equal to x minus 7 over 3. That is our return trip, right? That is our return trip, x minus 7 over 3 for this function. And we can check this, right? Let's use 1. If I start with 1 and I do 3 times 1 plus 7, I end up with 10. And if I want to go back, I'm going to plug that 10 in the other one, the return one, and I do 10 minus 7 over 3. That's 3 over 3, which is 1. I'm back to 1. So I just checked that I found the correct inverse. Now let's do some other functions that you may or may not have learned already, but that would be probably the type of question that would be asked on an exam. So the next one, we're saying find the inverse h of x equals 4x cubed, x to the power of 3, plus 2. So here, we'll do a little side note that x to the 3, the return is called cubic root. There's a 3 right here. And you need to know that. So if I start with 3, 3 times 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27. The return, the cubic root of 27, what number times itself 3 times gives me 27 is 3. Okay, that was the side note. So here our first step, again, is to set y equals instead of h of x. Our second step is to switch the positions of our x and our y, right? And I drew my little arrows. Again, my bad. We're going to do a y like this. 4y cubed plus 2. And again, the third one we're going to solve, right? We're going to solve. And I'm going to move that 3 a little bit here so it's out of our way. So we're solving for y. We're trying to get a y equals. So that 2 is in the way. We got to do the same thing on each side of the equal sign. It's a state of balance. Whatever I do left, I got to do right. Right? I needed a minus 2 to cancel the 2. And now I have to divide by 4 each side to get rid of that 4 in multiplication. So here we go. And I have this y cubed, right? So I'm moving with an arrow. I'm moving this here. I got y cubed is equal to x minus 2 over 4. Now I have to do the cubic root to get rid of the cube. So y is, in this case, with this function, the cubic root of all of this, x minus 2 over 4. This is my final answer here. Again, that might seem a little bit advanced if you're just learning this, but this is where you're heading. This is where you want to go. So take your time and digest this video with that problem. Now we're going to get to exponents and logarithms, which you study towards the end of algebra. And we're going to do an example with the g of x equals exponential 2 of x plus 3. So our first step, again, I did my y right this time, is y equals e of 2x plus 3. We are going to switch the positions. Notice that that x is up there of x and y. That y is now up here, right? And now we're going to work this problem to find a y equals. So first, to get rid of 3 with adding, I need a 0. That's minus 3 to each side. So I end up with x minus 3 is equal to e of 2y. E of x and ln of x are inverses to each other. So to get rid of e of x, I'm going to use ln. Again, this is towards the end of algebra, but I'm just using this as an example of a problem that you could eventually have. So I'm going to take the ln of each side. This is how the notation looks like. And these are going to simplify. So I end up with 2y is equal to ln of x minus 3. Well, again, to get y, I need to divide each side by 2. Remember, I'm dividing all of each side, so I'm dividing the entire other side. So my answer is y equals ln of x minus 3 over 2. And that is, again, the proper notation for an inverse. Sorry, that was not an f, that was a g. The proper notation for an inverse is to have a minus 1 at the top. So today's session was on inverses, and I want to show this problem here. The steps, let's go to this one here. right? We set a y equals as step 1. We switched x and y for step 2. And then we worked the problem to find a y equals until we got to a y equals. So it's the same strategy to find algebraically an equation, right? That's a linear equation here, 3x plus 7, and that gave me a linear equation, x minus 7 over 3, doing the same strategy. So thank you very much for this video today on finding the equation of an inverse.